Hey guys, I am hopping on here. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Debbie Lee, and I am a communications strategist. And I wanted to hop on here to talk about something that I'm super passionate about, which you might think I'm a dork for, but that is email marketing. I know. Some people say that email is a thing of the past, but trust me when I say it is still one of the most powerful tools that a marketer has in their toolkit. I mean, we're checking our email inboxes every single day, right? The best part is that with a little bit of strategy, your emails can get opened, read, and acted on. And I want to talk a little bit about what that looks like. Before I do that, I want to share a little bit about myself for those of you who don't know me. I actually started my journey in email marketing specifically about 9 years ago. I began with just setting up newsletters for a public benefit corporation that I was working with. And as I gained experience, I moved on to crafting strategic drip campaigns, one off emails, and eventually full scale marketing strategies for nonprofits and PBCs. I'm not just here to tell you about my journey though. I want to help you learn how you can use email to make an impact as well. Okay, so let's talk about why email isn't going anywhere. I know it can feel like social media is the shiny new toy, and it's not that new anymore, but it is super important. But email is still your direct line to your audience. Think about it. When somebody gives you their email address, they're giving you access to their inbox, their most personal space online. That's not something that you can get from Facebook, Instagram, or even LinkedIn. And it's a huge privilege, but a lot of times we don't really treat it like that as marketers. We are just thinking about sending emails like, how many emails can I send out without somebody unsubscribing? There's this whole back and forth about like, what am I putting in here? Can I get the most information into this email so that I don't have to send multiple emails? It's just those kind of emails get buried in our inboxes. You open it, you look at it for maybe a second, and then you're like moving right along, right? Sometimes I open some emails, and sometimes like there are even things that I've subscribed to, and I'm like, geez, this is a lot of information, or wow, this is like a lot of things in my face at one time, or this is a huge block of text going on here. And I just give up. And before I even get to the end of the email or to the part of the email where there's a call to action for me to actually do something, I've already given up on that email. I personally have worked really, really hard to make sure that the emails that I create don't do that. I am all about crafting emails that pull people in and that people actually want to open, read, and engage with. And here's the cool part. When I compare my results to industry standards, it's clear that email marketing, if we do it right, still works, and it works amazingly. So I want to give you a little bit of kind of numbers, background, so you can get exactly what I'm talking about. So in the nonprofit sector, which is where I have worked majority for probably the last year and a half or so, the average email opener rate is around 28%. I know for those of you who don't work in nonprofit, you're probably like 28%. That's amazing. And it definitely is. I'll tell you the average in the for-profit world is much lower than 28%, depending on the industry. But 28% is the average open rate for nonprofit emails. And click-through rates, that's a whole other thing. That average is usually around 0.1%. And those are solid, actually. Like when you think 0.1% doesn't seem like a lot, it's actually pretty significant. They're solid, but guess what? That's only our baseline. That's only like our starting point, where our minimum that we want to get to in order to reach the average. When I look at my personal results, and I'm just looking at the last 6 months or maybe a little longer than that, I'll look at emails for a couple of nonprofits I've worked with from January, and today is July, from that time frame. My open rates range from about 40% to 97% as a high. And my average open rate is 51.84%. So I would say that's a little bit better than 28%. And for click through rates, again, that average in the industry is 0.1%. My average is 1.4%, with some of the campaigns that I have overseen and crafted hitting as high as 6% click-through rates. That means my average click-through rate of 1.4 is 1,300% higher than the industry average for nonprofits. That's pretty huge. I would say that that kind of gives me a little bit of hopefully a little validation or for you to kind of take a few tips from me that maybe they'll work for you too. They've worked for me. And I'd love to share with you today 9 tips um, that you can start implementing today so you can start seeing these kind of results for your organization. Um, so I have 9 tips. I'll try to race through them for you so we don't keep you on all day. First tip number 1 is dive into data. Start by looking at where you are right now. What is your open rate? What's your current click-through rate? You need to know this information. You need to be measuring this stuff. If you're not, these are important insights that will really, really, really help you to tailor campaigns. You need to know where your starting point is so you can have a goal for your end point. Okay, next, tip number 2, listen to your supporters. Find out what they want to hear more of. Do they love stories, numbers, case studies? Give them what they're asking for, and you're going to see better engagement. Tip number 3, personalize your emails. I have seen far too many nonprofits that kind of like stick to this one newsletter format and they don't have any personalization. And as a result, people just don't open their emails. People want to feel like they matter to you. It's important that they feel connected. And a very easy way to do that, most email systems that I've come across, I probably have worked in the last 2 years with like 6 different platforms, give you really easy ways to pull in somebody's first name into a subject line. Put it in the subject line. Put it in the body of your email, wherever it makes sense to add it so that this person knows, hey, I'm talking to you. Next, tip number 4 is use tasteful visuals. Use visuals in an appealing manner. So I'm not just talking about like stick a bunch of pictures in there or use 800 emojis. By the way, that really, really bugs me. I love emojis, tastefully applied. If it's like if it's an email, like just use bullet points, dude. But anyway, I digress. Use tasteful visuals. A few well-placed emojis or images can really, really help, but you don't want to overdo it either, right? So we want to do something. We want to balance something here. We want to say tasteful visuals that kind of like balance out the email. We want to avoid having a whole wall of images, but we also want to avoid having a whole wall of text because people are not going to read if it's just a whole bunch of text. So we want to break that up with visuals in a tasteful way. Number 5, tell a story. People remember stories. There's a quote that we use in the for-profit world that say facts tell, but stories sell. And this applies in nonprofit as well. People remember stories, whether it's a success story, an impact report, a personal anecdote. Storytelling helps you to connect with people on a deeper level than just saying, hey, here's the facts, put them out there. Next, tip number 6. Ooh, we're on to 6. Moving. Keep it brief. Nobody has time for long drawn out emails. I know. I just said tell stories. And you're like, tell stories, but now I have to tell short stories. What's going on here? Stick to one story or one topic per email. If you throw too much at one time, your readers are going to see this, like the big wall of scroll that happens, which I'm pulling up on my email, and I'm not going to like show you this because, or I am going to show you, but I'm not going to show you exactly. It's just a lot of times there's just these long walls of text that end up that are not broken up, and it's just like, what are you doing? Like it's just copy after copy after copy, and nobody's going to stay to read all this stuff, guys, right? You have to keep it brief, or they're going to skip right past it. They're never going to get to your call to action in your email. Next tip, number 7, moving right along. I got to keep it brief too, y'all. Is segment. You have the data. That's the first thing we dived into, right? Now you've got to use it. Tailor your messages to different segments of your audience. A new donor shouldn't get the same email as your regular monthly donor gets. Somebody who hasn't donated in the last 6 months shouldn't get the same email that your brand new person that just signed up for as a monthly donor gets. We have to use to segment, and by using the data in order to put people in groups, then we can tailor that message for those individuals to meet them where they are instead of trying to get them to catch up to where we are. Next, tip number 8. What is that? 8. Work the data. After you send your email, don't just move on. Dive into the data. Who opened it? Who clicked? Who didn't? Use those insights to help you to improve your strategy the next time you send an email. And of course, it takes a little while, right? So like I am one of those people that I send an email and sometimes like I have that itch, like to say, let me see how it's doing. An hour later is not enough time, right? We're going to use data, of course, in order to pick the right time, right? Work the data, pick the right time of day to send an email, right? Maybe they get certain times your audience is more active than other times, and we can send it at the time when we know that they're active. We're going to work the data and we're going to use the insights we receive from that data in order to improve the strategy. We want to be able to look at this and adapt. And that goes right into my final tip, which is tip number 9. I'm really bad at this, guys. It's amazing that I can look at data and know what I'm doing, and I can barely figure out how many fingers I put up. But tip number 9 is to pivot and adapt. Email is not set it and forget it. As much as I love to tell you, even campaigns, right? I build out campaigns all the time. You have to look at the data after a period of time, whether that be, a week, 2 weeks, 6 months, a year. Look at it and see what's working, and then be willing to pivot and adapt. I know in the nonprofit world, I find that that's something that's sometimes a lot harder for us to do, because I have so much experience in for-profit and PPC. I think I've had an easier time, and that has probably been one of the keys to my success. One of the greatest keys to my success is the ability to look at this and say, that's not working. Let's change it. There's a quote that I love. I actually talk about it all the time with my son, that says that like if you don't like where you are, change it. You are not a tree. Okay. Same thing with your email strategy. Same thing. If you don't like how it's performing, change it. That's all you got to do. Sometimes it involves a little bit, right? Sometimes you got to jump through some hoops, but a lot of that stuff is more in our realm of capability and control than we think it is. We've just got to stay consistently willing to pivot and adjust. So I'm going to run through those 9 tips super quick for you one more time, so we can try and stay on track. And that is, tip number 1, dive into the data. Look at where you are right now. Before you start setting some goals, you need to know where you're starting. Second, listen to your supporters. If you're not giving them what they want, don't complain that they're not reading your emails. Second, personalize. People want to know that they matter to you. Use their name. Pull in their data, pull in their information. Any opportunity you have to make an email connect with a human instead of just falling on a blanket, right? Use that opportunity. Personalization matters. Next, use tasteful visuals. We don't want a big block wall of text, but we also don't want a big wall of a bunch of pictures in a bunch of bright colors that are not going to work, and that are going to turn somebody off when they open the email. Be tasteful when you're using visuals like emojis and images, and even like text blocks, right? Like you separate. I can't tell you how many times people just stuff everything together. Nobody's reading that. Sorry, nobody's reading it. Put a little space in between so we can all figure out what goes to what. Next, tell a story. Again, we're going to draw from that wisdom from the for-profit world. Facts tell, but stories sell. Are you necessarily trying to sell something in nonprofit? Maybe not, but you are trying to sell somebody on a cause that you want them to be committed to. So yes, in a way, we are selling. We want to sell the story of impact, and you've got to tell the story to sell it. Next, keep it brief. Nobody has time for long emails. So get to the point. If you can, stick to one topic at a time so that your readers do not get overburdened and dread opening your emails. Segment. Make sure you have tailored messaging for every segment of your audience. Work the data. Don't just send emails. Go back and look over the details of how those emails perform so you can take advantage of tip number 9 and pivot and adapt. All right, guys, I hope this has been helpful for you. At the end of the day, email is still a super valuable tool. It's direct, it's personal. When you use it strategically, it can create real lasting connections with your audience. And it's not just about broadcasting a message, it's about building relationships in nonprofit, in public benefit corps, and more even in the for-profit world. Successful businesses are those that learn how to build relationships, and your email is one of the ways that you can really start doing that. At the end of the day, it's valuable. So go ahead, use these tips to start building out a strategy that works for you. If you want tips or kind of like guidance in that process, just shoot me a message. I'd love to help you. Let's make sure that we're thinking about these things and building out thoughtful campaigns, strategic messaging that really touches the heart of the person that it's meant to, and delivers the results in the right way. All right, guys, you have a wonderful rest of your day. I'm going to hop off and have a good time myself. So take care. I'll see you next time.